Hello guys, hope you're well. So weekly roundup. This week what's caught my attention is the video with Jesse and Mal Morney. Now, of Silat. Now I like Mal Morney, I like his stuff, I think he has a really nice flow. I think there's great creativity to what he does, and I think there's a lot of overlaps with Goju Roo. That said, the video, for those who haven't seen it, is basically around knife defense. Now, I think this is where we don't do ourselves any favors in the classical martial arts, and again, whether that's karate, whether it's jiu-jitsu or aikido, whatever classical martial art is trying to deal with a concept of knife defense. Even modern martial arts, Krav Maga, they make the same problems as well. You can't simulate what goes on. Now, the problem I have with this video is everything's done from this karate range, this one kind of stabbing motion that's very easy to deal with. You get one attack and you're able to do a combination of 20 techniques before he does anything else. And I appreciate it's a very small snippet. I appreciate I'm probably saying the same sort of comments that people say about my sort of stuff, but it is what it is. Sometimes we put the stuff out there and it's going to invite comment. Now, when it comes to knife defense, technique, largely irrelevant. Anything you have in your mind of, I'm going to do these Gucci disarms or limb destructions or stripping the knife or whatever it might be, all that stuff is completely irrelevant. And I think the problem we have when we're presenting the information is that often we do it without talking about the necessity of the mindset and the aggressiveness and the assertiveness and the sheer just violence that is required to be inflicted upon an opponent who is armed with a knife. Now, without that mindset, whatever technique we're talking about, it could be the most effective technique in the world. It could even be drawing a gun to shoot the guy, which arguably probably the best technique to deal with a knife attacker. Without an analysis of the mindset, without a discussion of the mindset required in order to pull off these things, it's irrelevant. The technique does not matter. So when we're dealing with a knife, there can be no thought process of what he is going to do. What he is going to do is completely irrelevant. At that point, you see the weapon. Now, depending on where the weapon's held, it might change our tactical decisions somewhat about how we go about getting hands onto this person. But again, it's largely irrelevant. We just have to have the mindset required to fight through an ambush. Now, in the military, when you're ambushed, you don't stay on the spot, turn around to the threat and just fight from there. The whole concept of approaching an ambush is you turn towards the threat and you run through the threat. You don't run at the threat, you don't hold your ground and fight from your position. You turn face and you run through that threat and you keep going through that threat. So the only way out of it is through. The same thing is true with knife defense. As soon as we see that weapon, our mindset needs to change. It is not a fight, it is not a discussion, it is not a thought process, it is not anything. It is just to get through this guy and get out the other side of it. Now, the way we train in the dojo is not conducive to this mindset. Everything we do with a partner has a beginning, has an end. It has a mutual agreement about it. It has a flow to it, a timing to it, a rhythm to it. We can have none of those things when it comes to dealing with weapons, or when it comes to dealing with a threat that is such a high level that our life is in danger. We need to completely change the mindset from martial art, from self-defense, from thoughts about legality or court process after or any of this business. All that stuff at that point becomes irrelevant. And all we need to think about is sheer violence. How much destruction can I put on this person in as short amount of time as possible to make sure I completely nullify that threat and are able to get home safely? Without discussion of these things, everything else is irrelevant. So sometimes we open ourselves up to criticism if we don't present first a disclaimer that this is required and all this other stuff is just for educational purposes only, which is what, if we're talking about martial arts, these disarms, these techniques, these locks, joint locks, chokes, whatever we're doing to deal with a knife, It's entertainment. The reality of the fact is, it is a mindset that is required to survive such things. And that mindset is one of just violence and just complete destruction. Unless you're able to train that, it's something that you don't really know whether you have or not until such a time it's too late. So ultimately, the way I like to train in the dojo, just from a personal standpoint, is like a Tabata. So a Tabata might be, 20 seconds on, 10 seconds off. That would be a typical routine. Sometimes you could flip that order and you could go 10 seconds on, 20 seconds off. I'll face a heavy bag. Sometimes I might attach a resistance band around my waist or around my back so that that bag cannot swing around too much. It's kind of stuck at that close range distance. So with that bag on this spring of the resistance bag, that bag will move away from me a little bit as I hit it, but every time my strike comes off of it, it's obviously going to come back towards me because of the resistance of the band. So for that 10 or 20 seconds, I'm striking that bag, I need to be constantly putting in output in order to keep that band from squashing and taking up my space. So the mindset required for that is just of how much power, how many strikes can I put on this bag in that short space of time as possible. The mindset being complete destruction of completely obliterating that target. I'm trying to hit the same point on the bag every single time. So in that 20 seconds, I might maybe pull off, 60, 70, 80 strikes on that one point. So maximum amount of damage that I can do in a short space of time. If I make it 10 seconds, I'm gonna go even more all out on it. You then have a very quick recovery, but again, we're talking 10, 20 seconds recovery, and then you repeat and you go again. So each round, you're getting a little bit more fatigued, a little bit more tired. The technique's becoming a little bit sloppy. So now we're starting to add a little bit of an element of stress to the drill. So now that stress is going to again help us with our mindset of being able to just push through, ignore everything else that's going on, ignore the negative voices, ignore the feelings of wanting to quit, wanting to stop, wanting to slow down. None of that stuff can be allowed to enter discussion. All we are on about is violence, output, speed, and destruction. This is a very, very simple drill. You don't need no technique for it. All you need is a bag, and all you need is a resistance band to put around your waist. I'll film a separate video showing this drill, and you can have a go. But it's just some of my thoughts around mindset. It pops into my head because I watched the video and I know the sort of criticism he's going to get. And like I say, Mal Mooney, I think he's a good guy and he's got some really good stuff on there. So it might be a little bit unjustified, but it's important we present this sort of information just to kind of like preempt any of the bullshit that's going to come our way when we talk about knife defense or possible technique strategies you can use, because without a discussion of the mind, everything else is completely irrelevant anyway. Okay guys, that's my thoughts for the week. I'll see you later.